Hey, you know what it is. You know where you is. Yes, oh yes, it is that time. This is that place. Welcome once again into the I Am the Possible, yes, podcast experience, the place where possibilities become perspective. Guys, welcome once again into the I Am the Possible podcast experience, aka the I Am the Possible universe, aka the I Am the Possible University. Guys, thank you so much. I is your host, Treveal C.W. Lynch, Mr. What I am, yes, your self-worth specialist. And guys, I am so excited about season number 8. It's gonna be great. Yes, season 8 is gonna be great. Guys, I cannot wait to introduce you to these amazing guests that I had the privilege and the honor of having a conversation with this season. Guys, we kicking it off with an amazing individual by the name of Nicole Webb. I'm going to read her bio in just a moment, but let me just tell you, I met her on LinkedIn. We've been doing business together. She's allowed me to pour into the life of those that she serves, that have served our country. Such an honor, such a blessing to know this powerful woman of God, to partner with this powerful woman of God, and to have the opportunity to be able to serve her and her organization multiple times throughout the year. So this is such an honor. And I just had the honor of sitting down with her and allowing her to share her life. She has such a powerful testimony. This episode, this experience is for the person who may be going through something and you don't know how you're going to make it. You might feel like God's left you. You might feel like you're never going to get over this issue or this problem. You may feel stuck. You may feel like everything is falling apart and you need hope. You need a pick me up. You need a renewed spirit. You need a renewed heart and mind. And listen, this episode, this woman is going to share with you stories of grit, stories of courage, stories of power, stories of God's mercy and grace, of God's redemption, of what is possible. She's going to share stories of what is possible when you lean in, when you trust in the Lord. So I am so excited to share her with you. Let me jump right into reading, and I'm going to bring it up on my screen. You guys can't see it, but I'm going to bring it up on my screen. I'm going to bring up her bio. But before I read her bio, let me pause for a moment. Pause for the cause, as I always like to do, which I just forgot because I'm just so freaking excited about getting you over to getting to her, right? So I'm just, listen, I apologize. Let me pause for the cause. You are that cause. You are the reason I do what I do. Thank you guys so much for every email, for every download, for every share, for every like, for every comment, for every subscription, for every download, for every review. Thank you so much for your engagement. I appreciate who you are. I thank you so much for showing up for me each and every week, for showing up for yourself each and every week, for your family, for your community, for your church. Thank you for being who you are. As I like to say, your presence is the greatest present that you guys could ever give me. So thank you so much. I did not want to forget that, but I'm just so excited about Nicole and about this episode and about this new season. So as we like to say, charge it to my heart, not to my I'm sorry. Flip that. Charge it to my head, not my heart. My heart is in the right place, but sometimes your head can be all over the place. But anywho, let me get to this bio, man, and let's get into this episode. Excuse me, with Nicole. Nicole Webb is a retired Army 1SG. She served nearly 22 years, y'all, in the Army. She has 2 amazing sons. One who is 18, who's attending the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Another one who is a sophomore in high school. I didn't say their names because I did not want to not pronounce their names correctly. So rather than saying their names wrong, okay? Because that's sometimes that happens to people when they read bios. You're not quite sure, so I didn't want to say their names wrong. So I'm just going to just mention the sons. One is 18, like I said, and then one is 15. All right. Nicole currently holds a master's degree from Liberty University in executive leadership and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from American Military University. Nicole currently serves as a program manager for Hiring Our Heroes for the Corporate Fellowship Program. She invests in the lives of veterans across all 6 services in order to set them up for success in their future employment prior to their retirement or end of service obligations. Guys, with no further ado, let me zip it and let me move you right into this amazing conversation that I had with Nicole. I know you guys are going to be blessed. Now, because it's going to end with the episode, let me say it now. Until next time, please remember, genius is your design. Greatness is your destiny. God loves you. I love you. Nicole loves you. We love you. Be encouraged. And yes, above all else, be what is possible. Let's get into this amazing conversation with Nicole. All right, well, let's just get right to it. Let's jump into this. Nicole, thank you so much for just sharing your life, sharing your experiences, your expertise, your background, just sharing the person that you are with us, those of us here in the iAMthepossible universe. We are people who want to be inspired. We want to be told that we can. And sometimes the greatest way to tell us that we can is to show us what you've already done, what you've gone through, sharing your life experiences, sharing your ups, your downs, and just being yourself, and allowing us to witness that, allowing us to share in your journey and to share in your stories. So I'm just looking forward to this moment. I don't want to give you, any particular intro. I want you to introduce yourself as you desire. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you're up to in the world, and then we'll just flow from there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Nicole Webb. I am a retired Army First Sergeant. I served almost 22 years for my country. I had joined the military when I was 17, originally in the National Guard, and then I switched to active duty. So I am 2 years retired, effective 1 February. So that's been quite the transition for me. I am a single mother of 2 amazing young men, God-fearing, God-seeking men. So my oldest is 18 and he goes to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, as an engineer. He's in the engineering program. And then my youngest is 16 and he is a sophomore in high school and, pursuing wrestling pretty, in depth. He's very much into wrestling. So those are my joys. The job that I currently do, I help transitioning service members separating from the military find meaningful employment before they get out of the military, off of active duty, from all the branches of service. And so it's super rewarding, very valuable. It's one of those jobs where you love what you do and you're happy to wake up every morning and serve your people, right? My veterans are my people. So that's just a little bit about me and kind of what I'm up to and my life a little bit. So.
Oh man, so okay, so I got questions, and that's kind of how it goes. We listen to the intro, and just all of the curiosity just starts to kick in. You said you started in at 17 in the military?
Yes, I joined at 17 as a junior in high school. So I went to basic training my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Came back, completed my senior year of high school, and then I went to what's called AIT, which is our advanced individual training where we learn our job. Right. And then right after that, I went active duty. So.
Wow. So let me ask, because as you already know, because we've done some things together already. My son just shipped off, in the Navy, and I think I know his motivation, right? Just a part of his motivation as to why he chose the military, why he chose the Navy, and why he's choosing this path. But what was it for you? I mean, at 17, you're still young. You're still you're in those formative years. Share with us what made you choose the military at 17, and what made you choose the specific branch that you chose.
So for me at 17, I was pretty lost and of the world. Had experienced some pretty hard times in my life. I grew up without a mom. My dad was a single dad, raised by my single dad, and life was very hard in the city that I was growing up in, and just faced a lot of challenges. And it was time to go. So I knew something had to happen. And I had a great GPA, and I was on track to go to college. And I just was like, so my dad was in the Navy. So I had always thought I would join the Navy. I have a pretty good intellect. And when I took the ASVAB, they're like, yeah, we definitely want you in the military. How about, so the first branch to come talk to me was the National Guard, which is Army, but the part-time portion of that before you go, active duty like I did. Right. And, so I had originally thought the Navy, and then I chose the National Guard because they came and talked to me first. And then, as soon as I went to basic training in AIT, I decided to go active duty. But for me, it was to get out of the situations I was in life and just to go out on my own and know that I can do something that people like me maybe don't always get opportunity to do.
Can you speak to, and we are a community, a platform that says as much as you want to share, as transparent, as open as you want to be. I know for myself, looking at the military, I never thought of it as an option when I was growing up, but I didn't think of it as an option, maybe just because of my surroundings and the hopelessness that I had. I just didn't think I was going to do anything. But I heard you say challenges, and I heard you, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but we do want to dive into as much as you would like to share about those challenges, because there may be people listening that can identify with those challenges and would need that hope and that inspiration to make it through their challenges. And then I want to get into, you had like some hope, when you said people like me, to get a chance to do something different, to do something that maybe otherwise I wouldn't be, afforded the chance to do. And so I want to know, kind of where that hope came from and what it was that you hoped, maybe to accomplish with your life through the military. But first, what were those challenges, as much as you want to share, as deep as you want to go, but what were those specific challenges that you were facing that would cause you to kind of pick up and say, hey, I want to dive into a journey that's really the unknown? Yeah.
So like I said, I was raised without a mom. So I was raised like a guy most of my life, right? I was raised with my brothers and my dad. Okay. We grew up in the Kiamichi Mountains of Oklahoma. No running water, no electricity. We lived off the land, and that was challenging, but great. That was, like, I can say, some of the happiest moments of my childhood, to be honest. But with that comes challenges. You don't know when your next meal is coming. You don't have medical care. My first time to the dentist was basic training. So we grew up without a lot, in poverty. And so eventually my dad had an opportunity to go to Illinois. We were kind of like tricked into it, if you will, but we were kids, right? So you got to follow what the parents say. And my aunt and uncle had came to Oklahoma for their vacation. Okay. And asked us, did we want to go on vacation? So we're like, we've never been on a vacation. This sounds awesome. Yeah. But just prior to them arriving, we had just moved into our first home that had running water and electricity. So it was great to experience that. So we're like, oh, what is vacation going to be like? So we were told to pack 3 items of clothing, like three sets of clothing and 1 personal item. So that's all we got to pack that summer. And we left our house in Oklahoma, and we never got to go back home because my dad got a job in Illinois, and then life changed for us. He thought he could provide better for us and just different things like that. But we also didn't get to say bye to any friends, to our animals, to our possessions, to anything, because all of that got, let's just say, forgotten. And so we never went back home. We never got to close any loops, none of that stuff. So in that time in Oklahoma, there was this very kind family, the Birds. They would come and get my brothers and I to take us to church. My dad was not a believer. So that was really hard to deal with in my childhood. In fact, he oftentimes dealt with the opposite side of the spectrum. And so witnessing that as a child, a young girl, it was a little difficult. But before my mom did leave, because she left Thanksgiving Day of 1991, we did used to go to church together, and she would sing. And one of her favorite songs was Wind Beneath My Wings. So I can't sing like my mom, but it was like one of my greater memories of her right before she left to go be with another man. And so the Byrds would take us to church, and it was great. And so little seeds were planted, but I didn't really know this whole God thing, right? Like I was taught a little bit about him, but my dad, again, so church was like a privilege to get to go with the Byrds to church, but he would use it as a punishment for my brothers, but not so much me. So I went to church quite often as a young girl. And then by the time we got to Illinois, I didn't go to church again for many, 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 many years. And so there was a big gap there, but lots of big things happened in my life during that time as well. And so I would go with a friend here and there to like their church service and stuff, but I didn't know anything about denominations. I didn't really know a whole lot about anything, right? So I was just going through the motions in life, and again, lots of big challenges. So in high school, I got kicked out and disowned for some big situation with my father, and in that situation, it broke me, and I didn't want to be around anymore. And so I survived through all of the challenges that brought. So in high school, my senior year was very, very, very rough. I didn't even think I was going to make it through my senior year. So one of my guidance counselors kind of stepped in as a father figure to me. A family took me in, and life changed. It got better. And I was like, oh, I was saved in this situation. Well, my dad and I didn't speak from December 3rd of 2000 to April 21st of 2001. And when we lived in Oklahoma, he had got hit in the head with a tree. So he's had a brain aneurysm for all of these years. It was supposed to take him out a long time ago, but I'm going to say, but God, even though my dad wasn't on that side of things, God definitely kept my dad. And so April 21st, I get a call from my little brother, and he's like, hey, Nikki, we need you to come home. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Right. And he's like, Dad's like seizing out. So I ran from the house I was staying at to get home to my dad. And he's like, I can forgive you, but I'll never forget. And I said, well, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. So at that point, on April 21st, we decided to just be friends. And so since then, up until actually very recently, for the past several decades until very recently, he's been a friend to me, not a dad to me. So it's kind of like I grew up without a mom and a dad. So I was just out here in the world flapping, trying to figure things out. So the military, since I had joined at 17, my dad had signed my paperwork before I got kicked out and disowned. I was like, well, this is going to be the direction that I need to go to do what's best for Nicole, to get out of the situation that I'm in and go live my own life and, try to still help provide for my siblings, because I have a lot of siblings. It was just my two brothers with my biological mom, but then more came about in various situations, some family blood and some not blood, but family is what we want them to be, right? So, and in the military as well, you meet a lot of family. So I have a lot of Army family too. And so, that's kind of why I pivoted into joining the military. But like I said, my dad was in the Navy. So after I joined the Army, my older brother actually joined the Navy, and my younger brother actually joined the Marine Corps. So at one point we were all three serving at the same time. And my dad was pretty proud Vietnam vet with all three of his kids serving at the same time. I'm the only one who retired and stayed in the longest. Okay. But yeah, so it was good in that aspect as well. And then just service to my country. Like, I've always felt called to be like a servant leader. And so, I'm a retired first sergeant. I served my soldiers day in and day out. I would move any mountain that God would move with me for them. And so I'm a big mama bear when it comes to my soldiers, and I'll do anything for them, right? And if they're in the right, then I'm going to fight till the end. And if they're in the wrong, we're going to figure out how to fix it, right? Own your mistakes, and let's grow from there. And so in the job that I do now, also, I'm fed in that same manner. And it's like I'm a civilian first sergeant. I get to help them figure out things in life that they haven't experienced yet, but I have, to help them navigate those challenges with transition and things. So I hope I met all of your questions that you were just asking, but I kind of started going, and I'm like, oh, I forgot what he asked.
No, that's perfect. No, my goodness. No, this is about you. This moment is about you. And I've been podcasting for a little while, but you never perfect it. But one thing that you definitely strive to do is to honor the guest. And I'm being more and more conscious of asking the question and shutting up and allowing you to shine, right? Allowing you to shine, because this is about you. This is your moment. For some people, this is even therapeutic. And so I just want to serve you in this moment. So please don't hold back. Don't feel like you're answering it too long. There is no too long. Just go with it. Such resilience, such passion, such service. I see in your life. What can you contribute to the fact that you had gone through so much, and yet in the military, and I've witnessed it, right? I've been a part of some of those cohorts and kind of witnessed you doing what you do. Where do you think that came from? How did you make a transition from, as you said, not even thinking that you really wanted to be around much longer, to showing up for your servicemen and, servicewomen to such a degree, like going from, I don't know if I even want to be here, to if you're in a battle, I'm showing up for you. What do you think contributes to such transformation, to such a transition in your life?
Well, I think the biggest part of that is never having anyone show up for me. So that definitely contributes to it greatly. Like, I don't want anybody to have to go through what I've been through. If I can prevent that from any human at any point, I will always do so. And then eventually, as I, was in my career, I became a single mom early on. And I was never supposed to be able to have a child. And I did. So, but God. And so that was like a pivot point in my life. I grew up without a mom. Didn't really know how to be a mom, but I had to be a mom since I was 8 years old, courtesy of my mom. And kind of like a wife and a whole bunch of things all at the same time in a little 8-year-old body. And so I had been serving people literally my entire life. I've been in survival mode. Like, a situation happened when I was a young girl before my mom left, and then 8 years old, that happened. And so it's just been constant survival. And so when I got pregnant with my first son, I was like, God, like, you are the only way this could have happened. And so I knew I was going to be a single mom from the beginning. My son's father was like, have an abortion or we can't be together. Well, I don't believe in abortions, and nothing against anyone who does, but that's just my personal situation. I knew what I was doing when I did what I did. And so I owned that, and I'm very much a person of ownership, right? And so I said, okay, God, I'm pregnant. I'm having a baby, and I'm going to trust you in this. And so I started going to church, and I actually got saved a month before my son was born. It was a very hard moment. Sometimes when I talk about it with my church family, they're like, I'm so glad you didn't turn your back on the church. People in my church, it was a very big church at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. Okay. They seen my belly grow, and I was always by myself, right? I was always by myself, always by myself. Wow. So my belly's growing. Mm-hmm. April 21st of 2005, I say, yep, I'm feeling called. God, I hear you, right? And so I was like, I'm going to do this. So I go down front and get prayed for. And then they're like, go to a room in the back and somebody's going to come talk to you about, the choice you just made and kind of what that's going to do for your life and all these different things. And I was like, okay, great. So I go back there, pregnant as a house. Mind you, I'm doing a month. And she's like, an older lady comes to me and she's like, ma'am, where's your husband? And I said, I don't have a husband. Wow. And she got up and she walked away from me and she did not return. So I sat in there for about 20 minutes and I'm like, I'm about to get up and just leave. I don't know what's supposed to be happening here. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. And so this gentleman comes in and he's like, ma'am, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I just got saved down front. And they had said, come sit in this room and someone would come talk to me. He's like, no one's been in here. And I was like, well, an older lady came in here. She asked where my husband was. And I told her I didn't have one. And she turned away from me and she never returned. And he said, I am so sorry for that happening to you. That should have never happened. It's not how this goes. So we sat and we talked for about 20, 30 minutes about the decision I had just made. He was very apologetic for another human, which, it's great when you get apologies from other humans, but it's not the same, right? And so that did make me feel a certain type of way for a period of time because she certainly judged me in the church the day I got saved because I was a single mom. She didn't know my story. She didn't know what happened. None of those things, nor did she care to find that out. And so that was like a very big pivotal moment in my relationship coming to Christ. And so in all of that, continued with the Army as a single mom. I had to leave my first son when he was 4 months old and deploy to Iraq. And so my first deployment was rough. So my dad, who, mind you, I told you was just a friend, insisted on keeping my son. Although before my son was born, he made a lot of very not great remarks regarding my son's father and things like this. So I had to basically put him in his place and say, if you're going to continue to make comments like this, you will not ever see me again and you will never meet your grandson. So the moment he met his grandson, he melted, like literally like melted. And so he asked while I was deployed, could he and my soon-to-be stepmom keep my son? And I was like, I don't know, Dad, you smoke. I don't want my kid around that stuff, like all of these things. And he's like, I'll stop smoking. I'm like, do what? And so he quit smoking cold turkey, and he'd been smoking since he was 12 years old.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so he and my soon-to-be stepmom. So my stepmom was supposed to, they were supposed to get legally married. They had been together for years, but they were supposed to get legally married in May. So that would have been my son's first birthday. So that's when I was going to take my R&R leave to come home from Iraq so I could be there for my son's first birthday. Well, that wasn't part of the plan. In January, while I'm talking to my dad about my son and, just calling home to check in, my soon-to-be stepmom had some seizures. And so he had to, get her to the hospital. So he wasn't really able to watch my son anymore. So the lady that took me in when I did get kicked out and disowned, she took over my son. And the only way I got to come home from the Army was because my dad and stepmom weren't married yet, was because she was on my documentation as my family care plan, which is the people who watch, while you're deployed. So because I needed a new family care plan, that's the only reason I got to go home. And I got home in January, and literally within 48 hours of me getting home, she passed away. So that was very hard on everyone, her children, us, the situation with my son, just all the things. So then the woman I call Mama Lynn, the lady who took me in when I got kicked out of this zone, her and my sister, that I call my sister now, I've been in her life since she was 7, they took care of my kid while I was in Iraq the rest of the time. But my dad this was the best relationship he had ever been in. She was the most kindest, gentlest woman ever. And it was like amazing just to see his growth as a human, let alone a man and a father with her. And so after she left, he took it very, very, very hard. Yeah. And he went to deep depression and drinking and really bad and just a lot of not great things. And just previous to the deployment, he lost his mom. And so that was a whole situation. So within 6 months, he lost his mom, which was my grandma. God rest her soul. She was an amazing woman. And then my stepmom, Jenny. So I didn't get to go home in May for my son's first birthday because I went home in January. And so I missed, his first birthday. I missed basically all of his first because 2003 technology wasn't the greatest. We did have Skype, so I get to Skype in every once in a while, but definitely not the same as being there with your child and watching them grow. So imagine being deployed, lots of things happening, some really big things happening back in 2003 for the mission set and just all kinds of things. And then missing your child you never thought you were going to have, your mom you don't know how to be. You got taken away from your kid at 4 months old so you could serve your country. And now you're missing out on the whole first year of their life. So in Nicole, it was, what kind of mom are you? Like, what kind of mom are you? So a lot of mom guilt there and things to deal with. So I actually redeployed back to Germany because I was stationed in Germany. No, that was my first deployment. So this is 0506. I apologize for the date timeline. So Jaden, this is my second deployment that I'm on with Jaden, but my first one as a mother. And so 0506, I come back. What month did we get back? It was after his birthday. And yeah, a lot of big things had happened. And I was still at Fort Bragg. Now, mind you, while I told you that my son's father had said abortion or we can't be together, that was a very simple thing for me to choose. In that time, I had met my second son's father. And so he was super supportive. So I thought, and our story, so I thought was great. And in reality, it wasn't as great as I thought it was. And so I was being deceived to some degree. Not that I don't hold my own responsibilities for accepting the things I accepted, but came back, had my son. And I was off and on with the other individual, my second son's father, back and forth through all of that, right? And in 2007, I got pregnant with my second son. And he did not want to have a child, but he did participate much more than the non-existent father. So I became a single mom of a 2.5-year-old and a newborn baby. And so life didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. And here I am. So now it's time for my now third deployment. And I had to leave my now newborn at 3.5 months old because there was a training exercise I had to complete before I deployed for that deployment. And that 0809 deployment was my worst deployment of all three of them for lots of reasons. And in that deployment, God literally saved my life more than once in some very hard situations. There's no other explanation. And so, yeah, single mom, 2 kids, left one at 4 months, left one at 3.5 months. But here we are. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, super resilient, God-fearing, God-seeking young men who are thriving in life. And I couldn't be more proud. And they love their mama and they love God. And here we are on the other side of that, right? It was very, very hard to go through, but here we are. So.
My goodness. Wow. I mean, oh my goodness. So much is stirring up in me because, for so many reasons. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it puts it in perspective of how much we take for granted, how much, and I'm, what they say when you're pointing to someone else, you got like 3 to 4 fingers pointing back at yourself. Like I'm thinking for me, the stuff you can complain about, the stuff you can get irritated with, and to know that there are situations that will, and this is really my next question, but there are situations that will put you in a position where you have to trust God, like consciously trust God on a daily basis. Like it's one thing to wake up, oh, thank you, Lord. Even today, I mean, I got up, you do your thing, get up. Thank you, Lord, for this. Thank you, Lord, for that. Bless this, bless that. Thank you, Lord. Let's have a great day. But there are those that are, while you're doing that and it's all calm on the front, in someone else's life, it's I'm trusting you to survive today. I can't even put that into words, but that was powerful. That was, I'm gonna have to take that in. Nicole. My goodness. And I'm holding back my little tears. Man.
I tried to hold my back too. Sorry if you guys heard a little.
Yeah, it's all right. But that's why we do this, because lives matter. How did you continue? Because I know I've had my moments where I've said, God, man, I know I believe, but you ain't around right now. Like, this ain't happening on your watch, is it? Like, God, like you're really letting this happen. What was that like for you? Like, how did your relationship with God, how did you maintain it? What was he saying to you? What was he showing you? What were you saying to God? Like, take us through some of that in terms of how did you keep the faith? Because I know a lot of my listeners are Christian. I'm a man of faith. So how did you keep the faith in a reality, in a world with such chaos and such pain? How did you keep thinking that God was real and God like loved you and like he was still present? How did you?
I mean, so it wasn't easy. Again, lots and lots of challenges. That 0809 deployment, that was the worst one. A lot of things happened that God just showed up so many times. And the only reason that there is 1000% no way that I would be sitting here if there wasn't God. There's no way. But I know several times in my life that is the case, not only from that deployment, a few before, and now even some after, right? And so knowing that there is no logical explanation, because as you know, the God we serve, he operates outside of what we can actually even interpret, right? Like, so he's bigger than us, way bigger than us. He's our creator. So like when we try to rationalize or think, how could this, or why would this, and all of these things, sometimes we just have to sit still and we have to say, I'm going to be Nicole and you're God, and I'm going to let you be God. And when we do that, that was a big revelation for me last year when I went through my divorce after 10 years. Lots of not great things happened in that situation. Post-retirement, lots of big things. And so, and a recent situation I'm currently going through right now. And sometimes I'm like, Lord, I've been through a lot. How much more do you want me to take? You know, like how much more can I take? But I know without a shadow of a doubt that I am not standing on my own strength, but I'm standing on God's. So I've just specifically over the past about 9 months, 12 months, I've grown so much closer to God in so many ways. Like I'm in my prayer corner, which is my war room area, and I'm on my knees and I'm intercessing, and I wake up in the middle of the night, even last night, like I wake up in the middle of the night and I just say, okay, Holy Spirit, just tell me who I'm supposed to be praying for right now. What am I supposed to be doing? And I'm going through my own personal situation right now. I just got out of, in a very surprising manner, 5 weeks ago, the best relationship I had ever been in my whole life. So I'm 41. I truly thought I was coming out of the wilderness into the promised land. And out of the blue, the individual I was with, who we talked marriage, we talked baby, we talked all the things. So this was going to be my first opportunity having a child with a man who actually wanted to have a kid and raise it together and be my husband and chase after God, because that was my number one boundary after my divorce. If you're not chasing after God, we can be friends, but that's it. Like I know my next husband has to chase after God with me, period. And so in that, he was doing that. And I watched his prayer life grow. He got saved with me. Just so much powerful stuff happened. And then he was a new believer. He got saved December 1st on one of our date nights. And within weeks, the enemy took him back to what his familiar was, back to the life of, the streets, the life of the world, what you're comfortable in and things like that. And I went through a severe devastation because it came out of nowhere. So right now, I still have lots and lots of conversations with God about why that would happen, because I was in the best relationship I've ever been in. I was actually with a man who chased after God, and I witnessed it with me. Now 5 weeks ago to have just completely disappeared. So did a lot of praying, did a lot of crying out, did a lot of things, right? And one thing I'd like to encourage everybody on, even when we feel lonely, we're never alone, right? God is with us. God is with us. Right here, tattooed on my collarbone, Psalms 46:5. God is within her. She will not fail. I know that is true. I know that is true. Some people love tattoos, some don't. I obviously love them. I got lots of, things, and they glorify God, right? It's my stained glass window. Yep. And so I represent God in everything that I do. And so in that, lots of struggles, trying to understand in my human mind and my heart and my feelings why this could or would happen. And if my only purpose in the entire situation was to bring him to God, to at least plant those seeds and get him to sacrifice, to give his life to God, right? To make that choice on his own free will, then I'll take that, as much pain as that caused me, right? Because we are here to live our lives, yes, but our lives are testimonies for others. Just because I go through something doesn't mean it was to punish me. It doesn't mean it was, anything along those lines. It was, okay, now Nicole's been through this. Now she can give a testimony to the next person. Now she can give a testimony to the next person. And so I do value that. Again, I'm still very much in the thick of it, 5 weeks in. But even in this most recent situation, and even back in being a single mom, my deployments, making it home, the way my career went, just all these things there, Treveal, I know that there's no other logical explanation. If it wasn't for God, I would not be here. One scenario while I was deployed, I was supposed to be in an exact location where there was a shooting where 4 people died, 2 civilians, 2 military. I was supposed to be there at that exact same time, but I wasn't. Why? Because I felt called to go to the chapel. So I went and talked to the chaplain. They're calling me to figure out where I'm at. And again, this is my roughest deployment. And at that exact same time, I was supposed to be there. Just so many different scenarios similar to that are like life-changing and life-affecting. I'm human. I have had, situations and bouts of anger that maybe I didn't handle in the most righteous manner. Through that situation from that deployment, I wanted to inflict bodily harm on another individual. And I was moments from doing that because of what that person had did in this deployment, in this situation, hurting myself and many, many others. So I wanted to eliminate the threat because that's what we're trained to do as soldiers, right? Yeah. And I highly considered and was moments away from taking matters into my own hands. And I literally put my head down and prayed like 3 times in a row. And I was within arm's reach of eliminating the threat. And God took control and said, no, Nicole. So I stepped away from the situation, and I'm glad that I didn't do it, right? I'm glad that I didn't take matters into my own hands, but it's just time and time again. Although I've grown a lot, like I said, in the past, probably 12 months, my relationship with God has grown exponentially. Those moments, even back then when I wasn't as close with him as I am, I'm just so grateful for them, even though there were so many challenges associated with each and every one of them. And again, I sit here today because there is no logical explanation that could explain to you why I can even have this conversation with you, but God, period. And that I'm confident
in. Wow. So, but God. Yeah, that's been a theme.
But God.
But God, right? That might be your next tattoo. If you don't already have it. Yeah, but God. Because we were maybe like a few minutes in and it was a but God. Wow. Yeah. He's God is like that. God is like that, defying logic and the odds. I forgot. I recently heard a quote, like a saying: if God is on your side, you're always in the majority, or something like that. But basically, it's the idea that you just can't lose with God. During that time that you were, you were trained to eliminate the threat, and from the outside looking in, those who have not been in the military, through movies, media, conversations with those that are in the military, we form a perception of what the military is, what it involves. My son's in the military, like I said earlier. You've obviously been in the military for a great deal of time. My wife and I, we have military family in our family, line. And one common theme that I've always seen when having conversations with people in the military, and I give all due respect to that, I'm not trying to challenge that at all, is this idea that there are certain things we don't talk about. It's they trained me or they shared X, Y, and Z information, and I am not ever going to tell you, even if you're my closest. I've got a stepbrother that we know has been around the world, let's just say, and there are some things he has never shared, and I know he never will. He was a part of the whole 9/11, and he was at ground zero. He's never shared with us anything about that moment. I'm sure you've gone through some things. I'm sure that my young son is starting to explore and be exposed to some things. My question is you said that you were trained, and that's one of the perceptions that we have. Military people you go into the military, they train you to do certain things, and you become this soldier. You become this person that's able to do things that us civilians, we don't really have the mindset to be able to do. So you were trained on how to take out the threat, and you said that you prayed. And what my question is though you were trained, though you were in a situation that you felt legitimately, hey man, this person has caused me harm, others harm. I'm legit in wanting to do X, Y, and Z, and I've been trained to execute on this thing. What was it that God, and you don't have to tell us everything, but maybe what was the summary, or what was the essence of what God communicated to your heart that would override the training, override the disciplines, override the mindset to say, this person did this and I'm going to take these actions? In that prayer time, was there a theme, or was there a revelation, or was there an idea? Because the way I'm looking at it is that something overrode. There was an overriding of what you wanted to do, but God shared something else that became more powerful in that moment for you to make a better decision and to probably save yourself a lot of heartbreak and additional heartache by choosing to do what you instinctively and what you had been trained to do. What was it that changed your heart?
So, I mean, in this situation, obviously not going to give like a lot of details, because like you said, there are things. So veterans, we talk to veterans, so we can share things about life and its experiences with each other. It's much harder to do with civilians, right? Number one, we feel like they're not going to understand and they can't relate because they haven't been through similar situations and things like that. So I'm going to go backwards just a little bit. So the situation with my recent heartbreak 5 weeks ago with a man who was chasing after God with me, that is the only other human than my therapist that knows everything that happened on that deployment. So I felt safe for the first time in my entire life. I felt safe to be able to share. He's a veteran as well. And so that is also a piece of me that he took with him, because I now allowed myself to feel safe with you, and now I can't anymore. And so we do at some point find our people that we can share certain things with. So other people who went, through the experiences of Ground Zero and 9/11, your family member can share with them because they know where they're coming from, how they felt, and different things like that, if they so choose. Sometimes we hold it in and it kind of eats us alive. In the specific scenario that I spoke of, we're also not supposed to take matters into our own hands, right? So we take all commands from the tower. And in that specific situation, I was prepared to take matters into my own hands because I knew that would help a lot of people, not just me. Because that individual was not a good human, did some very severe, intense, disgusting, inhumane things, and they affected more than just me, but they affected my life very greatly. So in Nicole's mind, because I had been a soldier since I was 17, right? I'm a soldier for life. Eliminating the threat was a very real possibility. Right. So God intervened only in that. I wasn't planning on putting my head down and praying, but I felt like I needed to put my head down and pray. I had what I needed out and ready to go to eliminate the threat. And I prayed again. And then I put that up, and basically my communication was no, Nicole. No, Nicole. And so we don't always like being told no. Happens to be my first word. My first word was actually no. But God said, no, Nicole. So I put my weapon away, and I rode the rest of that ride in Iraq with the enemy sitting within arm's reach. And I continued doing what I was on mission to do, which was very, very hard because the human in me really wanted to protect myself and my people, because survival mode, that's what people who come up like me, that's what we're in. I've literally been in it since I was 3, but I shared with you guys since I was 8. As far as, my mom leaving, but there was some significant stuff that happened to me when I was 3 and should never happen to a child. And so since then, really but from 3 to 8, I think life was kind of okay. And then after that, life wasn't again, and hasn't been really since. There's been moments, right? God has blessed me beyond measure with my children and just with the people that aren't blood, that are family. And, with my dad, actually, in the situation I just spoke of that recently happened with my 5 weeks ago, ending of my heartbreak. My dad is now my dad. Like, I had a dad for the first time in this situation in decades. Like, he consoled me like a father should a daughter and things like that. So that's been very big in our relationship. So him to tell me he loves me more than he used to ever, and just different things like that. So there's been a lot of growth in that. And like I said in the beginning, my dad operates on the other side of things, but he knows God is there, and he knows, and he even said to me, Nicole, just trust your faith, like trust your God. And that's big. That's big to come from my dad being my dad and who he is and where he comes from, and the things that I know about my own dad, So I see God working in his life too. And his health isn't the greatest, and I've been praying for him for a very long time. And a few years back, he actually, Nikki, I need you to stop praying for me. I'm like, that's not going to happen, because he was just ready to go. And that's not going to happen. And so just God has showed up in so many ways, sometimes expected, sometimes not expected. I don't know why a lot of the things have happened the way that they did, but I do know that each and every time I've gotten on the other side of them, there's been just a strong, there's been the ability to help someone else not have to do it the same way. Even if they don't choose to make the same decisions I made, to help them know that, hey, there's light at the other end of this thing, even though everything seems so dark right now. And just a few weeks ago, I was in a very, very dark place. But God, I'm telling you, it just made no logical sense. Literally one night we're talking about the future, having a baby, talking about the wedding, and the very next day you walk out of our life and our everything. The enemy is real. Spiritual warfare is real, and it can do some things. And so if the other person isn't equipped, right? Even though myself, men's group, everyone was like, no, you got to put on your armor and fight. You got to put on your armor and fight. Again, a new believer is not always equipped to do that, right? They're not always in the headspace to be able to trust God in all of those things. So an addiction, right? Any kind of addiction, it takes a lot of things to get back away from that. So I'm tired of surviving. So I'm trying to thrive in life. I've been in survival mode my almost my whole life, right? So his comfortability in the world that he came from is very real. So he went back to what's comfortable. But God showed him some things with me. And so if that was my only role in this, then great. And if it's not, and God has a future for us in the future, that's also great. Because unconditional love, the word love, that's something it's been, obviously Valentine's Day just happened, right? But that's that's a societal thing. That's nothing and people misuse the word love so much. Love in the Bible is very, very different than the word love that comes out of people's mouth, right?
That's right.
And when I can sit here and tell the world, and I told the world, I love this man unconditionally. There's nothing that changes my love for him, even what he did to me and the way he walked out and all of those things. And so knowing that God's unconditional love for us, everybody doesn't love that way. They misuse the word love. And so showing him this is true unconditional love. God, our Father, loves us unconditionally, and we are to be his hands and feet, and we are to do things as Christ-like as possible. We are to strive every day to be as much like Jesus as we can, right? Every day. Right. That should be our goal. When we wake up in the morning, Lord, use me as your hands and feet. You lead and I will follow. Yes. And that's what I say very consistently. So loving this man unconditionally has caused me a lot of pain, a lot of human pain, right? Yeah. But I know I'm doing what God has called me to do. And I'm walking with grace through this entire situation. I haven't called him out of his name. I haven't like none of those things. I'm not going to act of the world in this situation. And either these things that I show him are going to be seeds planted to help him to want to turn back to God, or they're not. But we can't make that decision for the people that we love, right? He's got to choose that for himself. And so that's the hardest part, right? Like, I can't save you, nor do I want to be your savior, but I can show you who the savior is. And this is what he's done for me. So.
That's right. That's right. That testimony that you talked about earlier. That's right. That's right. Our job is simple, but yet hard. Just because something's simple doesn't mean that it's not hard. Yeah, absolutely. Your desire, which, I'm watching a theme in everything that you share, and it always, and I don't know sometimes as you're sharing if you're hearing yourself or if you're picking up on it, but your desire to be God's hands and feet, it's almost as if, and I want to be careful with how I say it, and I hope that you and that the listeners hear what I'm trying to convey, because sometimes we don't have the right words, but it's just kind of in our hearts. Your unyielding desire to be used to God's glory, your like, it's so authentic, it's so genuine that it almost feels like you have to, in a sense, suffer in ways like Christ. And again, I'm trying to be so careful with what I'm saying, but it's like when you read the scriptures, Jesus was a man that knew suffering. Like, he experienced every kind of heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, heart-ripping experience that we do. And then the cross. The cross is a separate experience. The loss of people, the betrayal, the hatred, the scriptures. And so it's almost like your deep passion to be as Christ, like, qualifies you on one hand to suffer as him, yet to be upheld as him. It's so honorable. It's so beautiful and so humbling to witness. So I just thank you for sharing, and I just thank you for being that God chaser that you talked about earlier, chasing God, and that's a standard, Nicole. That's a standard. I was just watching like a Tony Robbins video the other day, and he was talking something about like motivation and stuff, but he put the word standard. It's like what you will not stand for and what you will stand for, and I forgot what he was tying it into, but he was basically saying, like, you have to up your standards for this particular context. But what I'm hearing you say is you have a standard in Christ and a standard in your life that a lot of people are not ready or willing to sign up for because of what comes with it. But it's still worthy and worthwhile. It's still an honorable and a much needed pursuit. So it's not to discourage you, but it's to encourage you. And I hope and pray that as you've shared and anything else that you'll share today, that's what will be the result, or at least a part of it, is that we would walk away inspired to be the hands and the feet, because we see that it's possible. And we know now someone who is still waking up each day saying, but God. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're getting around the time that we want to start to kind of wrap it up. I want to give the floor back to you again, because again, I've talked enough here. Where is Nicole? Where is Nicole in terms of what you think, what you know, what you anticipate as your next stage in life? What are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to working on or working through? Anything that you want to share with the audience to say, this is my opportunity to share something with someone, to those that are listening, literally around the world. I have listeners literally around the world, not just the United States, but for those that are listening, those that are watching, what would you say to them? What would you share with them? The floor is yours. Anything that just comes front of mind for you.
So for me, where am I? I mean, currently I'm going to continue in this season of my life to work for the nonprofit I work for and continue doing the job that I do, serving, veterans and helping them through all life's challenges. And that's great. And that is the season that I'm in right now. And I do feel that's where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And that will continue at least until my youngest graduates high school. And then I'm going to continue to just trust God in where am I supposed to go next? What am I supposed to do? Where do you want me? I've always dreamed of going on a mission trip after my retirement. When you're in, it's not always the easiest thing to do for different reasons. But now I can do that. So, and missions don't have to be overseas. Obviously, I'm all about going overseas and doing that too. But I would literally pick up, if my son graduated high school today, I would literally, if God said tomorrow, I need you to go to wherever, right? Zimbabwe, and go on this mission trip. Okay, where am I going? What am I doing? What do you need me to do? And that's the mission I'm going to execute. And whenever I come home is when I come home, and that is that. And I'm in the position of life to do that. Now, I am hopeful, full transparency, to not have to continue to do that by myself. I don't know whether it's God's plan to repair what has just happened, and that individual to give his life over to God and chase after what God has for him. And that's my future, and that's my husband, and we'll do kingdom work that way together. And if it's not him, then whoever it is, if I'm supposed to do that kingdom work with someone else, then I will. And then if I'm supposed to just do it by myself with God's help, of course, at the forefront of it all, then I'll do that as well. And so that's just kind of where I'm at with that. God has always given me one of my talents, if you will. One of my gifts is writing. And so even as a young girl, that's always been something that I've done, both poetry and short stories and all the things. So many years ago, it was planted in me to write some books. And so before what just happened, I had 3 books in mind and how I was going to do it. And now after this travesty I just experienced, this tribulation, if you will, definitely there's a fourth book coming just from that scenario, because what I went through, a lot of people can relate to. I see it all over social media, a lot of things like that. Maybe not. The social media perspective hasn't really shown on the spiritual warfare aspect of it, because that's certainly what it is. Like that has been revealed to me, but more, but I can use the things that the people of the world have seen and also bring God into it and glorify it, right? Like, this is where we're at. This is what happened. And this is what we're doing. And so actually he got me a laptop for Christmas so I could start writing my books again. And so that was the thing that I was going to get started. So there will be some books in the future. I don't know how far out in the future that's going to be. Obviously, It's great that you're an author. So I'll be picking your brain about that as well a little bit once I get more pen to paper. Getting through really hard parts of my story. What happened to me when I was 3 years old, little girl. My innocence was stolen, and it wasn't anyone's to take from me, but they did. And so getting through that part of the story was really, really hard, and it gave me like a writer's block for many years. So after I finally got that to paper, like last year, I just paused because my kid was going to college. I'm a single mom again. I had to give him my laptop so he could use it for his engineering program. And I was like, well, again, a sacrifice, right? Like, we got to do what we got to do to take care of those that we love. That's so right. I didn't have a laptop anymore. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not supposed to write anymore. So now I don't have any excuses. I have a laptop I just got for Christmas. Right. And I'm definitely going to start delving into getting my thoughts, my books, my experience to paper, and then seeing where that kind of takes me. So in the future, the bits and pieces you heard of my testimony will be in much more detail with the things that I obviously can share, for the world to read and to see, God's grace through trials and tribulations. Like that's it's going to be good. It's going to be powerful. Just in conversation, with the people that God has placed into my life. When I say, Lord, give me the words to say, it's like things spew out of my mouth. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out, but okay, great. And so just being, a total surrender and just allow him to use us the way that he needs to use us in whatever capacity that looks like. It's not an easy feat by any means. There's a lot of challenges that come with that. Especially being a human, right? Like, it's like, man, my heart hurts, man, my brain hurts. Like, how could this happen? Why did this happen? All of these things. But we can have an inquisitive human mind as to why, but questioning the why, that's like, we just have to trust God. And sometimes that's the hardest part to do. So when you can get on your knees and surrender and say, all right, God, I trust you. I know you have something in front of me, right? Yes. Like that, it exponentially moves mountains for you. God is moving those mountains you didn't even necessarily see, right? maybe you didn't even see them, but they're there, and he's moving them out the way so that you can do what it is he needs you to do here on earth. And so that's what Nicole's going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to strive to do it his way to the best of my ability, right? With his strength, not mine. And I'm going to continue to grow out of survival mode, because that's the kind of season I'm in. I'm back to self-love and self-care. I didn't get away from it necessarily when I was with my, the relationship that just ended. But I did realize that I was loving him so well and not loving myself as well. So we have to get to a point where we can love ourselves like God loves us, like the unconditional love I give to others that I've given to everyone I've ever loved, right? Because that's what love actually is. I need to love myself unconditionally too. And the enemy does try to creep in, certainly, and make us think those thoughts. Because initially when he just walked out the door, it's like, I'm unlovable. I'm not chosen. I'm not worthy. I'm, all of these things. But that's the enemy, trying to get us convinced, that, hey, this is the direction you should go. These are the thoughts you should have. These are the things you should do. But God, period. But God and period. He will get us through every single time, no matter how hard it is, no matter how many nights we cry, no matter all of it. He's there. We may feel lonely, but he can give us this peace that's so unexplainable. And I'm currently experiencing that right now. There's still some hard days. Absolutely. Again, only 5 weeks in right now. But that we're never alone. And just knowing and acknowledging that, it provides this sense of peace and comfort that can't be explained. So.
Wow. I'm over here. I don't know if you're picking up on it, because sometimes, obviously we're recording this and so you can always go back and watch it, but sometimes things are hitting so home. I always keep a little pen and a pad over here, and I can kind of scribble, because some things I need right now. And you were saying some things I need today. Because once we're done recording, you got things that you need to do throughout the day, but I need that now. And I was just scribbling some things down. Some mountains moved. Wow. You said a lot of things that I want to just go back through really quickly, just to highlight and just let you know that I am in prayer with you and for you, partnering with you. That's one of the joys that I get to do. As you were saying about the story earlier, you told Pops, you don't get to tell me not to pray. And that's what I love about prayer, Nicole, is that no one has to give you permission and no one can stop you. So I'm going to be praying for you about continuing in your veteran service. I've already witnessed some of that firsthand, but I want to continue to pray for you on that, your missions trip. Looking forward to hearing you say, hey, I'm shipping off to so-and-so. When that comes to pass, future relationships, whatever that looks like, whatever the Lord has for you in terms of chasing God with a spouse, and then these 4 books that are stirring up and that will emerge forth from you. And I am definitely here to help you in any way I can when it comes to that. I even got some resources, if you choose the self-publishing route, that I can share with you, that's going to free you up financially, that you wouldn't even have to pay for. Normally you have to pay for them, but I was blessed enough to purchase a bulk of these particular assets that have to go with self-publishing. And so I would love to share those with you, and just to save you some dollars along that path. Something else really, this is just me. Take it for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth. And I can definitely email these things to you as well. But as you were talking, because I consider myself a visionary voice to the world, right? I'm always thinking about the possibilities. What could happen next? What could happen next? So as you were talking, just some titles started popping up for me. Number one, if you haven't started to name these books and put some titles to them, because one thing I've learned when I was writing is that I start with the title, because that title continues to inspire me to get to the finish line. It's like, man, I named it this because that thing matters so much that I got to finish. So I heard the title, But God. That's the first one. But God. I don't know if you would consider that. I also heard, but God, God's grace through the trials and the tribulations. I heard growing from survival mode. That's some kind of play with some of that. And then mountains moved. Just kind of heard some of that. So anyway, I was just doodling and just thinking, and just vision casting with you, because you got me all excited about what's next. Because God's not done with you, and God certainly didn't bring you through all that He's brought you through to drop you off here. You know, all of that was an investment in the contribution that you were created to be in this world. So I'm more excited than I've ever been to continue our friendship, our relationship in whatever capacity that looks like, and just to be a support and to be a cheerleader, to be someone in your corner, and to be a prayer partner with you. So I would be honored to
I
do
definitely
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so we are at our time. Thank you so much for being so transparent, so open, for being such a light in dark places. And just for the military also, I didn't want to, kind of forget that you have, whenever we write or create, we usually have like a niche community or a group of people that can really benefit from what we're doing. And so I just thank God that you're so connected and so vested in the military, because I know that these books and these testimonies, and I pray even that this podcast recording would reach those in the military and would be a place of encouragement, a place of inspiration, a place of therapy, to help someone to make it through one more day, and to keep their heads up as they're going through what they're going through. So any last words
Amen.
before we wrap it up? Yeah, thank you so much. Any last words before we wrap it up?
Just thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me share. And I'm excited to see what the future holds and what God's going to use me to do. And hopefully, we reconnect in the future regarding, what's the progress and all the things.
Yeah.
Love the titles that you're pulling out. We'll talk offline about that a little bit.
Sure. Yes.
But yes, some of that is already part of it too. I've already
right.
Yeah. So I'm super excited, and thank you for offering to support in with the self-publishing, because I've definitely considered that as well. So I just thank you for your friendship, and yes, I'm so grateful that you help with our veteran community in how you help for our huddles and things like that. Discovering the direction of their life is super powerful. I love that you created that just for them, and that you're adapting it, and you're doing all these great things. So we just appreciate you too, the veterans on my side of the house. So just, thanks for the friendship. Thanks for our continued relationship working together. And I definitely appreciate the prayers. And thank you for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been another episode, another experience of the I Am the Possible podcast experience, the place where possibilities become perspective. I want to thank you guys so much for sharing in this moment, for plugging in to this space and to this place of inspiration, motivation, edification, regulation, and elevation of your life. I hope and pray that these stories, these examples, everything that Nicole has shared today, that it has been a blessing to you, a encouragement to you. And I encourage you to share this out with individuals that may be going through the hard seasons, the hard times of life. There's so much suffering in our world. And one of the blessings that we get to be is someone or something that can encourage someone to get them through another day. So you never know the bridge that you can literally be by simply sharing out content like this, not just mine, but any positive content that's going to cause someone to think better about themselves and about their lives. So thank you so much for all that you guys are to me and to this platform. Until next time, let's continue to regulate. Let's continue to elevate. God bless you.